So let's kick off. I mean, all great architects are radical innovators. Radical was Zaha as well, and she's one of the greatest by this definition. And I don't know, I can't speculate whether Zaha's otherness or outsider status had something to do with it, perhaps. I mean, she really delivered these amazing radical innovations which changed our discipline, radical expansion of the repertoires, and repertoires, formal spatial morphological design repertoires are problem-solving repertoires, and these incredible moves she made, these four I will talk through, seem initially irrational, willful, based on art rather than architecture, but she was inspired by the Russian avant-garde. But once you take these on, and I think they're congenial to the new tasks of complexity, dynamism in the contemporary society, you take them on as problem-solving tools when you engage in using these things, like the explosion, which diagram she loved, and which breaks up, opens up, defortifies the block, the city, and gives an overall unity to a series of diverse fragments and elements and parts, held together by that force field which is generated by that expansion, and it matches maybe also with the city expansion. So we use this over and over again recently, maybe even in projects like Unicorn. Once you engage with these seemingly irrational, intuitive ideas and you bring them to bear on a particular design problem project, you see their rationalization power, their power to upgrade and expand the solution possibilities. The next one was calligraphy, seemingly rational, investment in the free hand movement, new degrees of freedom, but also there's a logic and law. The physics of rapid hand movement comes into that and gives a poise and dynamism and legibility to these lines, and the degrees of freedom of pouring into complex niches and having taken on complex sites. So I think this calligraphy notion was incredibly productive as well in terms of expanding the solution possibilities of maintaining legibility in the face of complexity, like the explosion. So the second one, the third one, equally seemingly radical and absurd, surreal, the distortions which we learn when we build up perspectival representations or isometric representation, applied not to representation, but to geometry itself. And that, in a sense, also grabs a series of diverse elements and brings them under the perspectival force field. You can give movement and topological drift and bias to all the elements, and therefore, for instance, you can code that direction towards the entrance, certain gesturing of everything else, and everything else is still possible. Or just add this force of distortion onto a topological relationship, which could be fulfilled at the same time many other needs. And landscape may be the most encompassing analogy. The idea of smooth transitions, of breaking up the rigidity of a traditional architectural order, field conditions, interpenetrations, and this incredible fluidity also of embedding and pouring into complex sites, incredible productive, as you know. And these were radical novelties, but they proved to be lasting innovations which had an enormous influence and empowered everybody in the field, who has now these new possibilities which simply weren't there before Zaha came along and really expanded our capacity to address the new complexity and dynamisms and issues congenially of the contemporary conditions. So it's really a major upgrade of the discipline and an empowerment for all of us. Thanks to Zaha, and amazing. And she delivered this early in her career in principle, and then had the tenacity to work it through and build up the organization to deliver it, but many others are involved.